What if I told you that the reason you feel lost isn't because life is unfair, but because you've spent too many years trying to live a life that was never truly yours? Every time you silence your own desires just to please someone else, every time you shrink yourself so others feel comfortable, every time you hide your dreams because you fear judgment, you don't just lose time, you lose pieces of your soul. We grow up believing that sacrifice makes us good, that obedience makes us worthy, that pleasing others will somehow bring us peace. But listen closely. Real peace never comes from the outside. The world cannot give you what you refuse to give yourself. And this is where the wisdom of the great thinkers begins to unfold. Marcus Aurelius once reflected that a person who lives for the approval of the crowd becomes a slave without ever being chained. You carry invisible chains too: expectations, pressure, fear of disappointing people. These chains steal your sleep, your energy, your identity. Seneca warned that when you let others decide your path, you waste the only life you've been given. He said we suffer more from imagination than reality, and most of that suffering comes from imagining what people will say, what they will think, how they will judge, and in trying to avoid their judgment, you lose your own direction. And Epictetus, the philosopher of inner freedom, said that no person is truly powerful until they control their own mind. Not society, not friends, not family, you, your will, your choices, your dreams. But tell me this, when was the last time you asked yourself what you truly want? When was the last time you lived a day for your own heart? When was the last time you stood up and said, "This is my life. I get to decide how it unfolds"? You have been living like a guest in your own home, walking carefully, apologizing for your existence, hoping someone will finally tell you that you're enough. But my friend, no one can hand you the life you want. You must claim it. This video is your turning point. The moment you stop living for applause, approval, validation, and start focusing on the one person who has been waiting for you all along, yourself. Because the day you choose yourself, the day you finally break the chains of expectation, that is the day you begin to win your life. There comes a moment in every person's life when they finally notice the quiet truth they've been avoiding. You've been living behind a mask, not because you're weak, not because you're afraid of effort, but because somewhere along the way, you were taught that your real self wasn't enough, so you learned to shapeshift. You became what others wanted. You agreed when you wanted to disagree. You stayed silent when your heart was screaming. You carried burdens that didn't belong to you, and slowly, you disappeared behind your own smile. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that people are more concerned with how others live than how they themselves live. And that is your story too. You've spent years worrying about how people see you, how they talk about you, how they define you. But when was the last time you cared that deeply about your own inner world? Seneca believed that the greatest tragedy is not death, it's living without clarity. He said that a person who doesn't know their own values becomes a wanderer, lost even in familiar places. And that's what happens when you live for others. You wander through life carrying dreams you never chose. While Epictetus reminded us that nothing can disturb a person who has returned to themselves. Because once you know who you are, the world loses its power to shake you. But you've been living on borrowed strength, borrowed courage, borrowed choices. You gave so much of yourself to the world that you forgot your own hunger, your own passion, your own fire. And maybe that's why you feel tired in ways sleep cannot fix. Maybe that's why you feel lonely even in a crowded room. Maybe that's why every small disappointment hits you so deeply, because you've never given yourself the space to truly live. But listen closely. You are not here to be what others expect. You are not here to perform for the world. You are here to rise into the person you were always meant to become. Your life does not begin when others approve of you. Your life begins the moment you approve of yourself. This is where your journey truly starts, not by running from people, but by coming home to your own soul. Every time you bend yourself to meet someone else's expectations, something inside you begins to fade. It's quiet at first, like a whisper you can ignore, but over the years, that whisper becomes a heaviness you can't explain, a sadness without a name, a tiredness that clings to your bones. You start feeling like life is slipping through your fingers, not because you lack ambition, not because opportunities are missing, but because you've been pouring your energy into everyone except yourself. Marcus Aurelius once said that people waste their lives looking outward, searching for meaning in the opinions of the crowd, when all the strength they ever needed lies inside their own mind. And you've done the same, chasing acceptance, approval, love, hoping that if enough people applauded you, you would finally feel whole. But that moment never came, did it? Because the applause of the world can never silence the emptiness of a neglected soul. Seneca warned that we give our most precious possession, time, to people who don't even notice the sacrifice. And that is the true cost of living for others. You give away the hours that could have been used to build your dreams. You give away energy that could have healed you. You give away your voice until you can no longer recognize its sound. Epictetus believed that freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about no longer being controlled by things that don't matter. And living for others is exactly that, letting your life be shaped by expectations that were never yours to carry. Think about it. How many decisions have you made because you were afraid of disappointing someone? How many dreams have you buried because someone said they were unrealistic? How many times have you silenced your heart because you didn't want to be judged? You've been living inside a cage built from other people's opinions. A cage with the door wide open, but you never walked out because you didn't know you were allowed to. But you are allowed. You are allowed to take your life back. You are allowed to choose a path that feels true to you. You are allowed to stop living for applause and start living for meaning. The pain you feel right now, that quiet ache in your chest, it's not weakness. It's your soul reminding you that you are meant for more than being a reflection of other people's desires. This is your turning point, the moment you choose to stop shrinking and start becoming. There comes a time when your heart grows tired of pretending, tired of carrying expectations that were never yours, tired of smiling while something inside you quietly breaks. You begin to feel a pull, a gentle force urging you toward a different life. Not louder, not heavier, just honest, a life shaped by your own choices, not by the noise around you. Marcus Aurelius believed that the human soul becomes restless whenever it lives out of alignment with its true nature. And that restlessness you feel, that quiet longing for something different, it's not confusion, it's clarity finally rising to the surface. Seneca would say that the mind is like a traveler wandering through foreign lands. When you live for others for too long, you become a stranger in your own story. You look in the mirror and recognize the face, but not the person behind it. And Epictetus taught that nothing is more painful than abandoning yourself, not because the world demands it, but because you forget you deserve more. You've given so much of your attention to people's opinions that you barely hear your own thoughts anymore. You wake up feeling disconnected, unsure why even small decisions feel heavy. It's because you're tired of carrying a life that doesn't belong to you. You crave simplicity, you crave truth, you crave your own voice again. And that longing is the beginning of transformation, because the moment you start listening to your inner voice, everything changes. You stop apologizing for wanting peace. You stop explaining why you need space. You stop negotiating with people who only understand you when you're pleasing them. Your soul has waited years for this moment, the moment you finally return to yourself and understand this deeply. You don't need anyone's permission to choose a life that feels real. You don't need validation to follow your own direction. You don't need approval to protect your inner world. This is the quiet revolution that begins inside you. Not loud, not dramatic, but powerful in ways that will reshape your entire future. The journey to win your life doesn't start with a crowd watching. It starts with you, alone, finally deciding to honor your own heart. You don't realize how heavy a burden is until the moment you try to put it down. For years you've been holding pressures that were quietly crushing you, expectations from family, judgments from society, opinions from people who never understood your heart. You carried them because you thought you had to, because you believed saying no made you ungrateful, because you believed choosing yourself made you selfish. But the truth is far simpler. You were never meant to carry the weight of everyone's happiness. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that a mind stretched thin by the worries of others loses its strength to guide itself. That's what happened to you. Your inner voice grew faint under the noise of obligations that didn't belong to you. Seneca believed that life becomes unbearable not because of hardship, but because of the burdens we add to ourselves. And isn't that what you've been doing? Taking on responsibilities that drained you, sacrificing your peace for people who never stopped to ask how you felt, quietly breaking just to keep everything around you from falling apart. Epictetus taught that freedom begins the moment you stop trying to control what isn't yours. You've spent years trying to manage expectations, emotions, and reactions that were never within your control, and in doing so, you forgot the one thing you could control, your own direction. Feel this deeply for a moment. You're exhausted not because life is hard, but because you've been living a life shaped by everyone except you. But something inside you is shifting now, a faint spark returning to your chest, a small whisper reminding you that you deserve peace too, that your dreams are not foolish, that your needs are not a burden, that choosing yourself is not betrayal, it's survival. It's time to set the weight down. Let go of the roles that suffocate you. Let go of the pressure that keeps you small. Let go of the belief that you owe the world every piece of your strength. You owe one thing, your loyalty to your own soul. Because when you finally stop carrying what isn't yours, you make space for what was meant for you, all along clarity, purpose, and a life that feels honest in your hands. Imagine standing at the edge of a quiet lake at dawn. The world is still. The air is crisp. The water reflects only what is directly above it. No noise, no distractions, no expectations pressing on your shoulders. Just you. Just this moment. This is the clarity you've been craving. Not from advice, not from approval, not from anyone else's applause. Real clarity comes when you finally stop running for everyone else and start listening to yourself. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that life is short, and the soul should not be wasted chasing shadows. Shadows of judgment, shadows of approval, shadows of other people's dreams. And yet, here you are, realizing that your own reflection has been blurred for years. Seneca said that the mind, untamed, becomes a battlefield, torn between desires that aren't yours and fears that were planted by others. You've fought silently for so long, defending a version of yourself that was constructed to please, to conform, to survive. But deep down, the real you has been waiting for permission to breathe, waiting for space to claim your own story. Epictetus spoke of the power of inner sovereignty, the freedom that begins when you refuse to surrender your choices to others. It's not rebellion, it's not anger, it's quiet authority. The authority to say, this life is mine, my time, my energy, my soul, my journey. Close your eyes for a moment and feel it, the small heartbeat of courage within you. It's faint but persistent. It's telling you to stop apologizing for wanting a life that fits you. It's urging you to stop bending to the will of others. It's daring you to step forward and reclaim what was quietly stolen, your attention, your purpose, your essence. The first step is always the hardest, to look at the life you've been living and admit, this isn't mine, to feel the fear that comes with breaking invisible chains, to face the voices that will scream, you're selfish, you're wrong, you can't. And yet, that trembling courage, that tiny defiance, is the spark that begins everything. Because when you start living for yourself, even the world notices, not because they understand, but because you move differently. You walk lighter, you speak clearer, you breathe deeper. The life you were meant to live isn't a prize to be handed to you. It's a life waiting quietly inside you, waiting for the courage to awaken. And this awakening is the beginning of everything. Close your eyes for a moment and think about every should that has guided your life. Every expectation you've carried silently, thinking it was your duty. Every time you said yes when your soul whispered no. Those invisible chains are heavy, but what's worse is that they feel normal. You've been taught that discomfort is the price of love, that sacrifice is proof of loyalty, that bending yourself is the way to belong. And yet, each yes that wasn't yours carved small fractures into your spirit. Marcus Aurelius would remind us that the mind is sovereign, yet we hand over its rulership to strangers, acquaintances, even friends and family, without realizing the cost. You've been living someone else's life in subtle ways, a life that looks like duty but feels hollow. Seneca warned that many people die without ever truly living because they live for the expectations of others. You feel that now, don't you? That quiet ache behind your eyes, that restless weight in your chest. It isn't life punishing you. It's your soul asking you to wake up. And Epictetus would remind you, freedom doesn't arrive in grand gestures. It begins in small acts of courage, a refusal here, a choice for yourself there. It begins the moment you stop giving away your energy and start defending your inner world. Imagine what it would feel like to lift those invisible chains, to take a deep breath and realize that no one can demand your loyalty to their dreams, to feel the air shift around you because you've finally decided your life belongs to you, and you alone. The first steps are trembling, messy, and terrifying. People will try to guilt you, voices from your past will whisper doubts. But every time you take a step forward, a chain shatters. Every time you say yes to yourself, a fragment of your true self rises from the shadow. This isn't selfishness, this isn't rebellion, this is survival. This is remembering that the most sacred relationship you will ever have is the one with your own soul. And here's the truth. The longer you wait, the more these chains tighten. Every day spent living for someone else is a day of yourself lost. So break them now, not tomorrow, not when it's safe, now. Because the moment you claim yourself, the world will start to make room for you, quietly, inevitably, unavoidably. And that moment, that first trembling act of claiming your own life, is the day you truly begin to live. There is a quiet moment that life gives you, whether you seek it or not. A moment when the noise fades, the demands stop, and all that remains is your own heartbeat. It feels strange at first, almost unsettling, because you've spent so long listening to everyone else that your own voice feels foreign. Marcus Aurelius taught that the soul flourishes when it turns inward, when it examines itself with honesty. This silence isn't emptiness, it's not weakness. It is the space where your true self waits patiently for recognition, and when you finally pause long enough to notice, you feel both fear and relief. Fear, because you realize how much of your life has been borrowed. Relief, because you finally remember that you are allowed to reclaim it. Seneca said that a person who neglects solitude loses the ability to think clearly. All the decisions you've made to please others, all the compromises you've accepted, all the hidden resentments, they have clouded your mind like fog on a winter morning. But in this quiet, you can begin to see again. You can feel again. You can remember what it means to want something for yourself without apology, without hesitation. Epictetus believed that inner freedom is not granted, it is seized, and this moment of silence is your opportunity to seize it, to acknowledge the life you've been living is not the life you were meant to lead, to recognize that the chains you carry are illusions formed by other people's expectations, and that the key to unlocking them has always been in your hands. Sit with this realization, feel the weight of years lifted just slightly. Hear the truth you have been avoiding. You don't owe anyone your fear. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone the fragments of yourself that were never theirs to take. This is where transformation begins, quietly, invisibly, without spectacle. It begins in the space where no one is watching, where you finally honor your own presence, your own desires, your own existence. And once you step into this space fully, every decision that follows becomes a statement. I choose me. I choose my life. I choose freedom. Have you ever felt the thrill of realizing that no one can control your life unless you let them? It starts small, a thought, a choice, a refusal, but it grows into something unstoppable. The moment you stop bending to others, you feel it, the raw, electric pulse of your own authority coursing through you. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that power is not in domination but in mastery over oneself. The strength to remain unshaken in the face of expectations, to follow your own compass, to honor your own path. That is true power. And when you start living for yourself, you discover that the world's pressure no longer dictates your movements. You move with intent, not reaction. You speak with clarity, not fear. You decide with confidence, not guilt. Seneca said that courage is the first virtue of a liberated mind. And courage begins with saying no. No to the invisible chains that demanded your obedience. No to the voices that whispered you weren't enough. No to the life that never belonged to you. Each refusal is a small victory, each boundary a declaration, I exist for myself. And the more victories you accumulate, the less the world's opinions matter. Epictetus taught that happiness isn't found in external circumstances, it is forged internally. Every expectation you reject, every demand you release, every choice you make for your own soul strengthens the foundation of your freedom. You realize that life isn't a series of sacrifices for others. It's a canvas waiting for the brushstrokes of your own design. Take a moment and feel it, the liberation that comes with reclaiming your energy, your focus, your life. The first steps are always the hardest, trembling, uncertain, raw, but each step forward is a declaration to the universe and to yourself. I will no longer live as a shadow of what others want. I will no longer shrink to make others comfortable. I will rise, fully, unapologetically, as the architect of my own existence. The power you seek isn't outside. It was inside all along, waiting for the day you would stop surrendering it. And that day begins now. There is a truth most people run from, a quiet whisper that gets drowned in the chaos of obligations and expectations. You are not here to live someone else's life. For years you've worn masks to please, to survive, to belong. You've traded your mornings, your afternoons, your nights, for approval that was never meant to satisfy your soul. And somewhere along the way, the person looking back in the mirror stopped being you. Marcus Aurelius said that the mind must remain sovereign over itself. And yet, when you live for others, you hand away that sovereignty, piece by piece, until the echo of your own desires is barely audible. You begin to forget what excites you, what scares you, what truly moves you. And in that forgetting, life feels heavy, confusing, unbearable. Seneca warned that the greatest poverty is not lack of money, but lack of freedom. Every time you sacrifice yourself for the comfort of someone else, you pay with a piece of your soul. And no one notices because it's invisible, a debt you silently carry until the weight becomes unbearable. Epictetus taught that the only chains that can bind a person are the ones they accept. The rest are illusions, and that includes the expectations, criticisms, and judgments of others. Once you see them clearly, once you recognize them as external and not yours, liberation begins. Ask yourself honestly, how many moments have you wasted? How many dreams have you set aside, convinced that someone else's happiness depended on your sacrifice? How many times have you silenced your own joy because it seemed inconvenient, selfish, or bold? This truth is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Living for others has stolen your most precious possession, your own life. But here's the turning point. Awareness is the first act of freedom. Once you acknowledge the cost, once you face the reality of how far you have strayed from yourself, you gain the power to choose differently. The path forward isn't easy. It will challenge everything you've been taught. It will confront the fears and guilt you've carried for years. And yet, it is the only path that leads to a life that feels alive. A life that belongs to you. A life you can finally call your own. There is a quiet courage that stirs when you realize no one has the right to define your worth. You've spent years shrinking, bending, softening yourself to fit molds that were never designed for you. You've carried invisible weights, whispered apologies you didn't need, and dimmed your light so others could feel safe. Marcus Aurelius reflected that inner strength arises when we act according to our own reason, not the whims of the crowd. Every time you surrender your decisions to someone else, you lose more than control. You lose a part of your essence. But the moment you choose differently, even in small ways, your soul begins to breathe again. Seneca reminded us that the bravest step is to value your own life above fleeting approval. You've traded countless hours of peace for validation that never arrives, for smiles that don't reach your heart, for promises of gratitude that were never sincere. And yet, the courage to honor your own needs is not only possible, it is necessary. Epictetus taught that freedom is an inside job. No external circumstance can grant it, no voice can impose it. It grows only when you stop yielding to influences that drain you and start listening to the guidance of your own spirit. Feel the shift. Feel the first spark of reclaiming territory that is entirely yours. It might be a simple act, speaking your truth, saying no, choosing a path that excites you rather than comforts others. Or it might be monumental, leaving situations that have kept you small for years. Either way, this is the first declaration of ownership over your existence. The world may resist, it may judge, question, criticize, even attempt to pull you back into familiar obedience. But no one can take away the boundaries you set for your soul. No one can diminish the life you begin to craft when your priorities are your own. Step into your own space with deliberate intention. This is where transformation solidifies, where courage becomes habit, where living for yourself is no longer a thought. It becomes the foundation of your everyday. There is an undeniable weight lifted the moment you realize your life has always belonged to you, not to friends, family, or society. For too long you surrendered direction, influence, and even dreams to people who never carried your heart. Every choice you deferred, every desire you silenced, chipped away at the foundation of your spirit. Marcus Aurelius wrote that wisdom is found in understanding what is within your control and what is not. Your time, your energy, your intentions, these are sacred. Once you start protecting them, the invisible burdens imposed by others begin to dissolve. Suddenly, what seemed impossible becomes achievable because your actions are fueled by purpose, not obligation. Seneca believed that life squandered on duty to others is life wasted. All the moments you deferred joy, comfort, and self-expression were stolen by invisible thieves called expectations. But recognizing that theft is the first act of resistance. Once you claim awareness, you gain the ability to redirect your steps toward fulfillment, authenticity, and freedom. Epictetus insisted that no external circumstance could enslave a person who masters their own mind, and mastery begins with acknowledgement. You do not owe your energy to anyone who does not nourish your soul. Your thoughts, choices, and actions are yours alone, and they are powerful when wielded consciously. Feel it deeply. This moment marks the start of self-possession. Every decision now carries weight because it is chosen, not borrowed. Every boundary is a declaration that your life will no longer be shaped by anyone else's fears or needs. Every step forward is a quiet revolution, invisible to the world, yet seismic within your being. You are no longer a passenger in your own existence. You are the driver, the architect, the guardian of your destiny. And when life begins to unfold according to your design, every fear, doubt, and hesitation that held you back will feel smaller, insignificant, and powerless against the force of a person determined to live for themselves. There comes a point when hesitation falls away, a point when excuses, fears, and doubts no longer hold meaning. You realize that every day spent shrinking, every moment you denied yourself, was a moment stolen from the person you were born to be. Marcus Aurelius wrote that life is long enough if it is used properly. Yet, how often have you traded hours for validation that never came, for smiles that felt empty, for approval that faded as quickly as it appeared? When you finally choose your own path, you reclaim those hours and redirect them towards something eternal, the construction of a life that honors your essence. Seneca reminded that bravery is not loud. It is subtle, internal, a quiet insistence that your desires matter, that your presence is valid, that your choices are sacred. When you begin living for yourself, courage becomes the invisible companion you never knew you had. It doesn't roar, it whispers steadily, you are enough, you are allowed, you are free. Epictetus believed that the mind is the birthplace of all freedom. Nothing in the world can enslave a person who decides to own their thoughts, their actions, and their intentions. The moment you stop surrendering yourself to others' expectations, you gain sovereignty over your destiny. You realize the power was within you all along. Quiet, waiting, patient. Feel the shift within your chest. The tension between who you were told to be and who you truly are begins to dissolve. The weight of obligation lifts slightly, replaced by anticipation, a fierce, electric awareness that your life is now yours to sculpt. Every choice from this point forward carries a profound significance. Every yes you give yourself becomes a building block. Every no to others' demands becomes a boundary that strengthens your foundation. And in these moments something extraordinary happens. You start to feel alive, not the shallow, borrowed excitement of pleasing others, but the deep, resonant pulse of living for yourself. This is where your life truly begins. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. There is a quiet moment when you realize that life has been waiting for you all along. Not for the version you molded to please others, not for the version that stayed small to avoid conflict, but for the one who dares to exist fully. And in that instant, something inside you shifts, subtle, profound, unstoppable. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that the soul prospers when it lives according to its own nature, not the whims of the crowd. The courage to honor your own rhythm, to pursue your own vision, to follow your own compass. This is not arrogance. It is the natural flourishing of a mind that has been restrained for too long. Seneca said that it is not the passage of time that ruins us, but the misuse of it. How many years have you allowed to slip through your fingers, consumed by obligations that never fulfilled you? How many dreams have been left dormant because they were inconvenient or uncomfortable for those around you? Recognition of this truth ignites a spark, the spark that calls you to reclaim what is rightfully yours. Epictetus taught that freedom comes when the inner world becomes sovereign, when you stop surrendering your energy to others' whims, when you stop bending to expectations, and when you embrace the life you've always wanted, then liberation arrives. Not sudden, not dramatic, but like the quiet surge of sunlight breaking through a darkened room. You begin to feel it in your body, in your mind, in the rhythm of your breath. The tension you carried for years, the anxiety, the guilt, the unspoken shoulds, starts to dissolve. And in that space, a new self emerges, stronger, unyielding, unapologetic. This is the rebirth you've been waiting for. A life no longer borrowed, a life no longer restrained, a life fully, fiercely, undeniably yours. From this moment forward, every step, every decision, every thought aligns with the person you were always meant to become. The world may resist, people may doubt, voices may challenge you, but nothing can reach the core of someone who has finally chosen themselves. Nothing can diminish the life of a person who refuses to live for anyone but their own soul. And that is the first taste of freedom. For too long you've handed fragments of yourself to others, your energy, your focus, your time, even your dreams. Every compromise you made to satisfy someone else, every silence you maintained to avoid conflict, every choice you abandoned to fit a mold, they were all pieces of your life that should have belonged only to you. Marcus Aurelius taught that people lose themselves when they live for the approval of others. Each action dictated by someone else's expectations weakens the mind and clouds the spirit. Your clarity diminishes, your courage fades, and your own path becomes invisible. Yet the path was always there, waiting for you to notice it, waiting for you to take the first step. Seneca warned that living at the mercy of others' desires leads to emptiness. You may have thought sacrifice was noble, that compromise was love, that obedience was loyalty. But when your life revolves around everyone else, the essence of who you are slips quietly away. And one day, you wake up and realize that you've been a stranger in your own life. Epictetus reminded us that nothing external can harm the one who masters themselves. Freedom is not found in pleasing, appeasing, or bending to expectations. It comes only when you reclaim control over your choices, your time, and your focus. When you finally stop living for others, the world stops controlling your story. It begins with a simple, deliberate decision, no longer giving your attention to people who do not lift you, no longer letting your thoughts be dictated by judgment or fear, no longer shrinking to make others comfortable. You are the only one who can live your life fully. No one else can feel your joys, bear your burdens, or walk your path for you. Every moment spent living for someone else is a moment of yourself lost forever. So today decide, stop giving your life away. Stop surrendering to expectations. Stop shrinking into the shadows. Because the moment you choose yourself, everything begins to change. Your energy returns, your vision sharpens, your heart awakens. And finally, you start winning the life that was always meant for you. Time is the one resource you can never get back. Yet, how often have you surrendered it to obligations, opinions, and expectations that were never yours to carry? Hours, days, even years, spent on people, causes, or validation that left your spirit empty. It's a quiet theft, unnoticed, until you feel the void where your own life should have been. Marcus Aurelius reflected that a person's true wealth is measured not by possessions, but by how they use their time. Every moment given to someone else at the expense of your own growth diminishes your inner riches. When you begin prioritizing yourself, when you start investing in your own clarity, your own dreams, your own energy, the returns are immediate and profound. Seneca warned that life is not short because of its length, but because so many people live it for others. Every compromise, every attempt to please, every yes said out of obligation is time stolen from yourself. And one day, if unchecked, you may look back and realize that you have no memory of truly living, only of surviving to meet someone else's expectations. Epictetus taught that freedom begins in the mind and manifests in action. When you choose what deserves your attention, you choose what shapes your life. The world may demand your presence, your labor, your compliance, but none of it is mandatory. Your energy is yours alone. Your focus is sacred. Your choices define the life you lead. Feel it now, the surge of power that comes from claiming your time, from saying no to distractions, draining relationships, and unnecessary obligations, from protecting the hours that nourish your mind, body, and soul. Every minute you reclaim is a brick in the foundation of the life you were meant to live. Every boundary you set strengthens your autonomy. Every choice made for yourself reinforces the truth. You are the captain of your journey. You are the author of your days. You are the one responsible for winning your own life. The question now is simple. Will you continue giving yourself away, or will you step forward and claim what is yours? Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the quiet, relentless decision to step forward despite it. For years, you may have allowed fear to guide your life, fear of judgment, fear of disappointment, fear of what others might think. And in doing so, you silence the very part of you that longed to thrive. Marcus Aurelius reminded that no one can control your mind except yourself. Your fears, your doubts, your hesitation, they exist only if you allow them to. The moment you claim your courage, you reclaim the power you thought had been lost. It is in choosing yourself over comfort, over conformity, over fear that true liberation begins. Seneca believed that bravery is not a sudden act, but a series of small choices made consistently. Every time you say yes to your own desires, every time you honor your boundaries, every time you step away from demands that don't serve you, you cultivate the strength to live fully. The world may resist, others may criticize, but the fire of courage grows quietly, invisibly, unrelentingly. Epictetus taught that external circumstances cannot dictate happiness. Your life is defined not by the expectations of others, but by the alignment of your actions with your own principles. Choosing yourself is not selfishness. It is the foundation for a life that feels alive, real, and uncompromised. Feel the truth of it. The hesitation, the doubt, the guilt, they are temporary. But the life you claim by honoring your own path is permanent. Every moment spent living for yourself strengthens your identity, sharpens your focus, and aligns your spirit with purpose. The world may challenge you. Voices may demand your attention. Expectations may pull at your resolve, but none of it can overpower the person who has chosen themselves. The courage to prioritize your own life, your own growth, and your own happiness is the ultimate rebellion. A rebellion that transforms fear into freedom, doubt into clarity, and compliance into mastery. And in that choice, you begin to truly win your life. There is a quiet power in realizing that your value is not determined by anyone else, not by their approval, their praise, or even their attention. For too long, you may have measured your worth against the reactions of others. Every compliment, every criticism, every acknowledgement became a mirror reflecting a version of yourself that wasn't real. Marcus Aurelius said that a person who understands their own nature cannot be shaken by the opinions of the crowd. When you begin to see yourself clearly, independent of what others think, a calm strength emerges, one that does not demand recognition, one that does not seek validation, but one that simply exists in alignment with its own truth. Seneca taught that we squander our lives when we place our happiness in the hands of others. Every time you relied on someone else to tell you you were enough, you gave away your power. But recognizing that your worth is inherent, that it exists regardless of applause or criticism, changes everything. It transforms fear into confidence, hesitation into action, and dependency into freedom. Epictetus reminded that external forces cannot touch the mind of someone who governs themselves. Your sense of value, your priorities, your decisions, these are inviolable when they are rooted in self-awareness and integrity. When you embrace your worth fully, no expectation, no judgment, no pressure from outside can sway you. Feel it in your chest, the surge of certainty, the quiet roar of inner strength, the life you have been seeking, the peace you have been craving, the freedom you have been longing for. It begins here, inside of you. Every action from this point forward carries the weight of self-respect, the clarity of purpose, and the certainty that you belong to yourself first and foremost. This is not arrogance. This is awakening. This is reclaiming the life that has been waiting for you all along. When you finally embrace your own worth, you stop living for others. You stop shrinking, apologizing, and deferring. You start stepping fully into your life, and in doing so, you begin to win it in a way that no one else can ever take away. Freedom begins the moment you stop measuring your life by someone else's standards. It starts when you no longer allow their expectations, their judgments, or their desires to shape your path. For too long, you have bent, compromised, and silenced yourself. And yet, the moment you choose yourself, an invisible weight lifts, one you didn't even realize you were carrying. Marcus Aurelius reflected that true liberty comes from within. No external circumstance, no opinion, no societal demand can bind a mind that governs itself. When you stop living to satisfy others, the world's pressure no longer dictates your choices. Every decision becomes intentional, every step forward deliberate, every breath a declaration of ownership over your own life. Seneca taught that most suffering arises not from the world, but from giving it authority over our hearts. Every compromise, every act of pleasing someone else, every deferred dream, they accumulate silently until life feels hollow. But recognizing that the authority lies within you changes everything. It transforms anxiety into clarity, obligation into freedom, and resignation into empowerment. Epictetus reminded us that nothing outside yourself can harm you unless you allow it. When you stop surrendering your energy, attention, and focus to forces that do not serve you, you reclaim your power. And once that power is reclaimed, a new world unfolds, a life of intention, authenticity, and unstoppable momentum. Feel it now, the liberation that comes from living for yourself. No more apologizing for wanting more, no more shrinking to accommodate others' comfort, no more delaying your own growth for someone else's approval. This is the life you were born to lead. A life guided by your choices, fueled by your passions, and protected by your inner sovereignty. When you finally claim yourself, the chains fall away, the noise fades, and the path ahead is illuminated by the truth you've always carried. Your life belongs to you. And in that realization, victory begins. Transformation does not happen in a single moment. It begins with the smallest choices, the quiet acts that defy the expectations of others and honor your own truth. A decision to speak up, a decision to say no, a decision to stop shrinking in the shadows of someone else's world. Marcus Aurelius believed that a disciplined mind is the architect of its own destiny. When you make choices aligned with your values, your energy is no longer scattered. Each action becomes a deliberate stroke, painting the life you were always meant to live. Even the smallest step toward yourself carries enormous power because it signals a departure from the life borrowed from others. Seneca warned that wasted life is life surrendered to distractions and obligations that do not nurture the soul. When you stop spending hours, emotions, and attention on what doesn't serve you, you begin to feel something long forgotten: clarity. The fog lifts, the weight lightens, and suddenly you recognize the infinite possibilities waiting for the person who finally prioritizes their own existence. Epictetus taught that freedom is not a gift. It is earned through consistent choice. The courage to honor your own desires, the strength to protect your energy, the determination to follow your own path. This is where liberation begins, and each step, however small, is proof that you are capable of creating a life that belongs to you alone. Imagine it, a day in which your choices reflect only your priorities, your passions, your principles. A day in which you act from clarity, not obligation. A day in which you measure your success by the growth of your own spirit, not by the approval of others. The first steps are always uncertain. Fear will whisper, doubt will linger, and old habits will try to pull you back. But the momentum builds with every choice, every boundary, every act of self-respect. This is where the journey shifts from mere awareness to action. The path may be challenging, but every step taken in service to yourself brings you closer to the life you were born to lead. Step forward. Choose yourself. Start winning your life, one deliberate, powerful step at a time. Change is never quiet. It stirs a storm inside, a clash between the person you've been and the person you're becoming. For years you lived in the shadows of others' expectations, their judgments, their approval. Now, the inner voice that has been silenced begins to speak, demanding attention. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul must remain unmoved by external pressures, yet the struggle to honor your own path is real. Every step toward yourself is met with resistance, old habits, old fears, old patterns whispering, return, stay safe, don't risk, and in that tension you discover the measure of your courage. Seneca reminded us that suffering often comes from within, from the tension between what is and what should be. The pain you feel as you break away from pleasing others is not weakness, it is growth. It is your spirit shedding layers of obedience and compromise to reveal the core of your authentic self. Epictetus believed that the mind holds the ultimate key to freedom. The internal battle is proof that you are moving from dependency toward mastery. Every moment of discomfort, hesitation, or doubt is a test of your commitment to yourself. Every time you choose your life over conformity, you reclaim your sovereignty. Feel it, the resistance, the uncertainty, the fear. It is necessary. It means you are confronting what has held you small for too long. It means you are choosing a life of integrity over convenience, authenticity over approval, and freedom over obedience. This internal battle is not a one-time fight. It is a daily commitment. But each victory, no matter how small, strengthens the foundation of a life lived fully for yourself. Every moment you resist the pull of old patterns, every boundary you honor, every desire you pursue without apology, you are winning. The war for your own life is quiet, invisible, and yet monumental. And the victory? It is the life you have always wanted, the self you have always deserved, and the freedom to finally be unapologetically you. True change begins when awareness becomes action. It is one thing to realize that you have been living for others. It is another to stand firm and decide that from this moment onward, your life belongs to you. Marcus Aurelius reminded that the mind shapes reality. When you commit to yourself, every thought, every choice, every intention begins to align with the life you desire. The world may continue to demand, to distract, to challenge, but the person who is committed to their own path stands unshaken, grounded in clarity and purpose. Seneca said that consistent practice, not occasional effort, cultivates strength. Freedom is not won in a single moment of defiance. It is built daily, in small, deliberate acts of prioritizing your needs, protecting your energy, and pursuing what ignites your soul. Each day you choose yourself over obligation. Each moment you honor your truth. Your life shifts imperceptibly, yet profoundly. Epictetus taught that nothing external can control the mind of someone who governs themselves. Commitment to yourself is the declaration that you will no longer surrender to external pressures. It is a promise to act with intention, to move deliberately, and to protect the sacred space within you where your dreams, desires, and purpose reside. Feel it in your body, in your chest, in the rhythm of your breath, the first tremors of transformation. The quiet shift from survival to mastery, from fear to courage, from distraction to clarity. You are no longer a passenger in your own life. You are the pilot, the architect, the guardian of every moment that follows. Every choice made from this place of commitment strengthens your foundation. Every step taken for yourself resonates through your mind, body, and spirit. And slowly, inevitably, the life that was always waiting for you begins to emerge. Not borrowed, not dictated, but entirely, unmistakably yours. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that your life belongs to no one but you. No more borrowed priorities, no more silent compromises, no more decisions made to please or appease. Everything you do, every choice you make, every step you take is for your own growth, your own happiness, your own destiny. Marcus Aurelius reminded that true freedom is not external. It is the mastery of one's mind, the courage to act according to reason and purpose, and the strength to disregard what does not serve your inner peace. When you live for yourself, every fear of judgment loses its grip. Every expectation imposed by others fades into irrelevance. Seneca said that life is not measured by the years you live, but by the moments in which you are fully awake to yourself. When you stop living for others, you awaken. You see clearly where your energy has been wasted, where your spirit has been constrained, and where your dreams have been delayed. And in that clarity, a new sense of joy begins to rise, quiet, steady, and unshakable. Epictetus taught that your inner world is invincible when governed by reason. Nothing external, no voice, no command, no criticism, can touch the person who has chosen themselves. Living for yourself does not mean abandoning compassion or connection. It means preserving your core while engaging with the world consciously and intentionally. Feel it now, the liberation in knowing that your actions are your own, the exhilaration of making decisions without guilt, the peace of honoring your boundaries, the confidence that arises from aligning your life with your deepest truth. This is the life you have been seeking, not borrowed, not dictated, not diluted. It is authentic, it is deliberate, it is yours. When you fully embrace this freedom, the world no longer feels heavy. Every step you take becomes lighter, every choice becomes clearer, and every day becomes a celebration of the person you were always meant to be. There is a hidden treasure in the act of living solely for yourself. It is not gold, nor fame, nor applause. It is something deeper, something subtle yet undeniable, the satisfaction of knowing your life unfolds on your terms. Every decision you make, every boundary you uphold, every ambition you pursue becomes a testament to your autonomy. Marcus Aurelius reminded that serenity comes from focusing on what you can control. By redirecting your energy inward, by cultivating your own priorities, you find clarity that the noise of others can never provide. Each day becomes a canvas, and each action is a brushstroke in the masterpiece of your existence. Seneca believed that true wealth is measured by the depth of your fulfillment, not by external validation. When you stop bending to please, the world's demands lose their power. The joy that arises from acting in alignment with your inner self cannot be taken, copied, or diluted. It is yours, permanent and transformative. Epictetus taught that mastery over one's own mind creates freedom beyond circumstance. By choosing yourself, you release the invisible chains that once dictated your life. No judgment, no expectation, no obligation can sway your focus when your intent is rooted in your own growth and truth. Feel the subtle shift inside, the quiet pride of standing firm, the relief of releasing others' control, the energy of embracing your own path. your life, your time, your dreams, once scattered, now whole, alive and vibrant. The reward of choosing yourself is not immediate, flashy or loud. It is calm, deep, enduring. A sense of peace that permeates every corner of your mind and soul. From this moment forward, every action becomes meaningful. Every choice becomes a reflection of your true self. Every day becomes a victory in the life you finally own. This is the profound power of living for yourself. You stop surviving for others and begin thriving for you. You stop fading in the shadows and step fully into the light of your own life. Victory is not measured in applause, approval, or recognition. It is felt quietly, deeply, inside, in the steady rhythm of a life finally lived on your own terms. Every choice you make, every action you take, every boundary you honor echoes the truth. You belong to yourself first and foremost. Marcus Aurelius reminded that fulfillment comes not from external rewards but from inner alignment. The mind, once surrendered to others, becomes a fortress when it is reclaimed. Your thoughts, intentions, and decisions are no longer borrowed. They are yours. And in this sovereignty, a profound peace emerges, one that cannot be shaken by judgment, criticism, or expectation. Seneca taught that the brave do not wait for permission to be themselves. You no longer wait for validation, approval, or permission. You move through life intentionally, guided by purpose, fueled by clarity, and grounded in the knowledge that your priorities matter. Every day becomes a step in a journey that is entirely your own. No compromises, no apologies, no surrender. Epictetus believed that freedom is found when the mind governs itself. By choosing your own life, by protecting your energy, and by honoring your desires, you step into a power that no one can take away. The chains of obligation, guilt, and expectation fall silently behind you, leaving only the clarity of self-determination. Feel it fully, the exhilaration of reclaiming your time, your energy, your dreams, the joy of standing tall in your own truth, the relief of finally letting go of what was never yours to carry. This is the ultimate victory, a life no longer dictated by others, a mind no longer constrained by fear or expectation, a soul fully awake, fully alive, fully free. When you live for yourself, you are unstoppable. When you honor your path, you are unshakable. And when you claim your life, you begin to win in ways the world could never define, measure, or take away. Freedom is not a single moment. It is a practice. It is a daily choice to honor your own priorities, to protect your energy, and to nurture your vision. The liberation you feel today can be lost tomorrow if you surrender to old patterns, external pressures, or the temptation to please. Sustainment requires vigilance, awareness, and commitment. Marcus Aurelius taught that virtue and discipline are the companions of a life well lived. The strength to remain aligned with your truth, even when the world demands otherwise, ensures that your freedom is lasting. Each morning you wake, each decision you make, is an opportunity to reaffirm your sovereignty. Consistency, not occasional effort, is what transforms fleeting freedom into a permanent state of being. Seneca warned that life squandered on distractions and obligations is life wasted. Do not allow the pull of others' expectations to erode the life you have reclaimed. Prioritize what feeds your soul, nurtures your mind, and propels your growth. Every act of self-respect becomes a brick in the foundation of a life lived fully for yourself. Epictetus reminded that the mind is invincible when it governs itself. Sustaining freedom begins internally, the habits you form, the boundaries you protect, the clarity you maintain. Nothing external can take it from you, but neglect and compromise can quietly slip away. Guard your focus, honor your desires, and act with deliberate intention. Feel the weight of responsibility and the exhilaration of autonomy. The life you now lead is fragile, only if you allow it to be, strong if you remain vigilant. Every decision reinforces your identity. Every boundary strengthens your sovereignty. Every choice manifests your freedom. Living for yourself is not a one-time victory. It is an ongoing journey, and the reward is profound. a life of clarity, joy, and authenticity, untouched by the demands of others, entirely guided by the rhythm of your own soul. Once you start living for yourself, something extraordinary begins to happen. Every small choice, every act of self-respect, every moment you honor your own path, creates momentum. It grows silently, almost imperceptibly at first, but soon it becomes a force that propels you forward, unstoppable and undeniable. Marcus Aurelius taught that a disciplined mind shapes the life it desires. When you act intentionally, the rhythm of your days aligns with your values, and the chaos of the outside world loses its control over you. You move through life with clarity, purpose, and a quiet confidence that nothing can diminish. Seneca believed that fulfillment comes not from pleasing others, but from pursuing your own excellence. Each boundary you uphold, each decision made in service to your own growth, each refusal to sacrifice yourself for convenience becomes fuel. Your energy compounds, your focus sharpens, and your life begins to accelerate in the direction you were always meant to go. Epictetus reminded that freedom is internal and that the mind governs all. The momentum you cultivate by prioritizing yourself cannot be taken. It is built from countless small victories, invisible to the world, yet seismic in their impact on your soul. Every choice reinforces your independence. Every step strengthens your resolve, and every commitment to yourself expands your power. Feel it, the rising energy within you, the clarity in your thoughts, the certainty in your actions, the exhilaration of finally being untethered from the weight of others' expectations. This momentum is unstoppable because it is fueled by truth, purpose, and self-respect. The world may attempt to slow you down, to distract, to demand, but the person who has begun living fully for themselves cannot be diverted. Every action, every decision, every step forward becomes a testament to the life you are building, one that belongs entirely to you. This is not just liberation, this is transformation. This is the unstoppable momentum of a life reclaimed, a soul awakened, and a person who finally wins the life they were always meant to live. There is a quiet, unshakable peace that comes when you finally stop living for others. It is not loud, not flashy, not dependent on recognition or applause. It is a deep, internal stillness, the kind that hums in your chest, resonates in your mind, and soothes your spirit. Marcus Aurelius taught that serenity arises when the mind aligns with its own reason. When your choices reflect your values, when your actions honor your intentions, chaos no longer disturbs you. You move through life with calm certainty, knowing that every decision is authentically yours. Seneca reminded that the truest wealth is freedom, not possessions. By refusing to surrender your energy to external pressures, by protecting your time and focus, you create a life rich with clarity and meaning. The approval of others becomes irrelevant, their judgment powerless, their expectations empty. Epictetus insisted that external forces cannot touch the mind that governs itself. When you claim ownership over your thoughts, your actions, and your desires, no one can diminish your life. You exist as a sovereign being, guided by inner conviction rather than outer compulsion. Feel it in every fiber of your being, the liberation from the weight of others' demands, the calm certainty in choosing your path, the profound fulfillment of living according to your own truth. This is the ultimate reward, a life not borrowed, not diluted, not controlled, a life lived fully, deliberately, and unapologetically for yourself. And in that clarity, you discover something extraordinary. Peace is not something you chase. It is the natural consequence of finally prioritizing the one person who truly matters, you. Life is not won in a single decision. It is conquered through a series of conscious choices. Every moment you dedicate to yourself, every boundary you uphold, every dream you pursue adds to the architecture of your existence. This is the essence of mastery, the quiet accumulation of deliberate acts that shape the life you deserve. Marcus Aurelius reminded that the mind, disciplined and focused, is the ruler of destiny. Each time you choose clarity over confusion, integrity over compromise, action over hesitation. You reinforce the sovereignty of your own life. Your purpose becomes visible, your energy concentrated, your path unmistakably yours. Seneca believed that the courageous are defined by their ability to remain true amidst pressure. Every time you resist the pull of external demands, every moment you honor your own priorities, you strengthen your inner authority. This is not rebellion, it is self-respect. This is not selfishness, it is survival, growth and freedom. Epictetus taught that freedom is a habit cultivated within the mind. By consistently choosing yourself, by acting with deliberate intent, and by refusing to yield to others' expectations, you secure a life that cannot be stolen. The power to shape your destiny exists not in circumstance, but in the persistent, conscious choices you make each day. Feel it, the subtle thrill of ownership, the steady surge of confidence, the profound satisfaction that comes from living intentionally. Each decision is a declaration, each action a brick in the foundation of the life you have been meant to lead. The journey is ongoing, but the momentum is undeniable. With every choice, every boundary, every pursuit, you move closer to a life that is entirely unapologetically yours. And in this mastery, victory is not a distant dream, it is the life you are living, moment by moment, choice by choice. This is the moment you have been building toward, the culmination of every choice, every act of courage, every step taken for yourself. All the hesitation, all the compromises, all the moments you lived for others, they have led you here to this quiet, undeniable truth: your life belongs to you. Marcus Aurelius reminded that nothing outside can harm the soul that governs itself. You are no longer a shadow in someone else's story. You are the author, the architect, and the hero of your own journey. Every decision, every boundary, every dream you chase now resonates with the authenticity of a life fully claimed. Seneca taught that the bravest people are those who honor their own existence. You have faced the fear, the doubt, the endless pull of expectation. You have resisted the voices that demanded you shrink, the pressures that asked you to comply, the whispers that told you you are not enough. And now you stand tall, unwavering, free. Epictetus said that freedom is earned in the mind and manifested in action. The life you have reclaimed is proof of that truth. You are no longer controlled by obligation, approval, or fear. You are guided by your own principles, your own desires, your own vision. Feel it completely, the exhilaration, the serenity, the power of living for yourself. This is not temporary, this is not borrowed, this is not conditional. This is your life, uncompromised, unshakable, extraordinary. And now, the world can no longer define you. The expectations of others can no longer limit you. The doubts, fears, and chains that once held you captive have fallen away. You have won your life, not through wealth, not through fame, not through others' approval. You have won it through courage, clarity, and the relentless choice to honor yourself. This is the ultimate victory, a life fully, fiercely, and unapologetically yours. A life lived for no one but yourself. A life that, from this moment forward, can never be taken away.